Hello, everyone, and welcome into the latest edition of the Meeting on the Mound here for Coast to Coast Sports. In the words of Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong, summer is coming past. The innocent can never last. Wake up, guys. September's coming to an end, which means it is the end of the Major League Baseball regular season. 30 teams have worked all year long, and the best 10 teams are getting to start a new season starting Tuesday, the 2017 postseason. Today, my co-host Alec, Henden, and I will be previewing every game in the postseason from the wild card games all the way to who we think will raise the Commissioner's Trophy at the end of the year. One disclaimer, though. The standings that we base our seedings off of are current as of today, September 29th. A couple of teams have not necessarily clinched their seedings. For example, the Red Sox have not clinched the AL East. The Rockies have not clinched the NL wildcard. But we will be basing our predictions based off the current seedings. With that, Alec, let's get started. It's been a fun year, hasn't it?
Oh, baseball season's always fun.
What's your one memory from this season so far?
Just the Diamondbacks being good has been crazy. Just around Phoenix, it's been 6 years since they made the postseason. Last year might have been the worst season in the franchise history. No one expected this team to do well this season, and to see them hosting a wild card game in less than a week, it's been a fun part for me to watch this season.
I'll tell you what, one thing I'll remember is the Indians, their historic win streak. They have 100 wins now. They are really looking to end their curse like the Cubs did last year. They are really hurt from that Game 7 loss at home to the Cubs, and they right now more than likely will be the #1 seed in the American League. But next week, we have wildcard games. We're going to start off with the American League wildcard game Tuesday night, more than likely 8 o'clock Eastern time, first pitch. The Yankees are, as I'm saying more than likely a few times, more than likely to be the home team in that game. If they are guaranteed at least a tiebreaker game for the division at this point, well, the Red Sox are at least, so more than likely the Yankees are going to host that AL wildcard game against the Minnesota Twins. Yankees have not been in the playoffs in 2 years. They were the losers in the wildcard game in the Houston Astros in 2015. The Twins have not made the playoffs since 2010. Now, in 2009 and 2010, when each year they won the AL Central, they wound up losing in the division series, getting swept by the Yankees. 2009 there at the Metrodome, still 2010 there at Target Field. A few years later, one game, Yankee Stadium, pitching matchup more than likely, Irvin Santana against Luis Severino. Alec, who wins this game and why?
I think it's hard to bet against the Yankees. They are the team with the most championships in all professional sports. This is a team that's built to win right now. Aaron Judge is a star. He's probably not going to win MVP because of Jose Altuve, but he's had a tremendous, maybe the greatest rookie season we've ever seen. Luis Severino's had a tremendous year as well. I think he's able to pitch deep into this ball game. And their bullpen, even though it's had its ups and downs, no one wants to face Betances and Chapman at the end of the game. The Yankees also, I think I saw a stat since like 2010 or something like that, They've 91-39 against the Twins. They are just an ultimate domination in this matchup. So I expect them to cruise against the Twins, who have been a nice story, but they're not poised to make a deep postseason run in 2017.
Many years ago, Pedro Martinez, the famous quote, "The Yankees are my daddy." That goes the same for the Minnesota Twins, unfortunately. The New York Yankees are going to win this wild card game. Their offensive firepower, although the Twins have a really, really good core as well, and Miguel Sano just came off the DL today, could possibly be starting in that wild card game. I just don't see the Twins going out and winning it, especially against that bullpen with Robertson, Betances, and Chapman. I think Severino might be the best pitcher on the Yankees, really to develop in the future. I mean, Tanaka hasn't really been that great as a starter for the Yankees, but again, Severino, a real bounce back year, an all-star year. Easily, he could be a comeback player of the year, too. We debated this on a previous show. I believe they're going to win the wild card game and more than likely face the Indians. But let's flip over to the National League. The Arizona Diamondbacks last Sunday, they clinched their first playoff spot in 6 years. They guaranteed home field for that game. You're going to be going with our producer, Ethan Kennedy. Ethan Kennedy's a Rockies fan. More than likely, the Rockies are going to be in that game. It'll be a divisional matchup. The projected picture for the Rockies, John Gray, Zach Greinke already announced he's going to start for the D-backs in this wild card game. Who's going to win and why?
I'm going to stick with the Diamondbacks. They've been the better team in this matchup. This is a matchup with no secrets. These teams share a spring training home together. They played each other 19 times this year. The Diamondbacks took that series 11-8. Zach Greinke, though, this is what he was brought in to do for the Diamondbacks. pitch these big games. It's why he was paid $205 million, and I think he will go out and do it in front of a home crowd that's going to be very excited for the Diamondbacks. Hasn't had a postseason game in 6 years, and it should be an electric atmosphere at Chase Field on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I know you both will be bringing the electricity from Tempe to Chase Field. I agree with you in this matchup. The Diamondbacks should win this game. But I'll tell you what, this is going to be an offensive show. If you want to watch this game for pitching, you best wait till Thursday to start watching playoff pitching, because you have 4 legitimate MVPs, 2 on each side. You have Charlie Blackmon and Nolan Arenado. I think Charlie Blackmon could win the National League MVP with his stats. He leads the league in runs. He leads the league in hits. Leads the league in triples. Has 100 RBIs. Arenado can win MVP any year. That's kind of goes the same for Paul Goldschmidt on the Diamondbacks. And JD Martinez, unbelievable. 59 games. He has 29 home runs as a Diamondback. That is crazy. 45 home runs in less than 120 games combined between Detroit and Arizona. He missed a month of the season to start in Detroit. Detroit, obviously, a last place team this year. Listen, I want to see the Diamondbacks go on and win. They have a good bullpen. They have a pretty solid lockdown. You're kind of iffy on the Fernando Rodney side in the 9th. Archie Bradley really good in the 8th. So that's going to do it for our wild card picks. Let's go to the division series. We're going to start with matchups that pretty much are set. We'll start with Houston and Boston. Now, Houston would be the home team, would have the home field advantage. Right now, they have 99 wins. They're a game behind Cleveland. More than likely, they're going to keep that spot. I would say Boston Red Sox are guaranteed at least a tiebreaker game for the AL East champs. So we're just going to crown them that at this point. So Houston, Boston, they're facing off this weekend. Obviously, you have Houston and the Red Sox have 2 great offenses, some solid starting pitchers as well. Who wins this series and why?
I think the Astros win this series. I think they're the better overall team in this matchup. They have the star power, Jose Altuve, most likely going to win AL MVP. George Springer, Brian McCann behind the plate, has done a great job leading this pitching staff in his first season in Houston. The pitching's been pretty good. Dallas Keuchel, Justin Verlander has been dominant since he came over from Detroit right at the very last minute on August 31st. Lance McCullers is a nice number 3 starter. Their bullpen's pretty good, and I think they do enough to beat the Red Sox, who have been hit and miss this season, especially with the bats. They've had a huge power outage when they lost David Ortiz to retirement last year, and they have done a good job, mainly behind Chris Sale and a very good bullpen to stay afloat and most likely win the AL East, but I don't think they have the horses to win a 5-game series against Houston.
How many games do you think will Houston win to win this series?
I think Houston wins this series in 4 in Boston.
I believe the same thing. Houston in 4 in Boston. Josh Reddick's having a good year, hitting .314 for the Astros, as well as Altuve, who's leading all baseball with a .350 average. Again, you look at the starting pitchers. Behind Chris Sale, the only other really good starter for Boston is Drew Pomeranz, but he's another left-hander. Rick Porcello did not perform well last year in the playoffs, and also this is Chris Sale's first postseason.
Right.
So I don't really have as much confidence in the Red Sox as I do in the Astros. In the other series, should the Yankees win, they will face the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Indians, reigning American League champions, 100 wins already. Yankees, of course, Judge and everyone else, the Didi Gregorius, Gary Sanchez, Starlin Castro. How do you think this series is going to wind up?
I definitely think the Indians are going to win this series. They have the postseason experience coming off last season. Francisco Lindor has had a tremendous season for them offensively. They're pitching behind Corey Kluber, who was my pick to win the American League Cy Young, is just dominant. The bullpen with Andrew Miller, who missed some time this year but is now healthy. He wasn't even a part of their big 20-game win streak, which is crazy enough to think. This is a deep team, and they're the best position to not only win this series but win the American League.
How many games?
I think the Indians sweep this series, to be
Really?
honest, no matter who they play.
I think you're close to correct. I'm going to give them 4. I'm going to give the Yankees a game in this series, especially when Luis Severino's on the mound. And it won't be till about a game 3. If that were the case, it would be at home at Yankee Stadium. I believe the Indians are just going for it all again. They have pretty good offense. Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor. You touched on Andrew Miller, the bullpen. Andrew Miller can come in the 4th inning, the 7th inning, the 9th inning, the 12th inning. Pitch a shutdown inning, help them win. So I'm going Indians at 4 as well. Let's flip it over to the National League. Let's start with the Nationals and Cubs. I'm amped for this series.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be so much fun because on one end, you have the Nationals with a dominant trio of starting pitchers, Steven Strasburg, Max Scherzer, Gio Gonzalez. On the other end, you have the Chicago Cubs, who are the reigning champs, who made baseball fun again, in my opinion, last year. Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Ben Zobrist, Javi Baez, all those guys. They have a really good bullpen too. Wade Davis just blew his first save of the year this past weekend. So, how do you think this series is going to turn out?
I definitely think this series is going the distance, but I do think the Nationals will win because of their aces in Scherzer and Strasburg and Gio Gonzalez, who's been tremendous this season. Plus, let's not forget their offense. It's been pretty dominant this year. Bryce Harper is a star. Anthony Rendon's had a tremendous season. Daniel Murphy has been a revelation since he came over to Washington. And I definitely think that the Nationals will win this series in 5, and they will finally get the monkey off their back as they win their first postseason series in franchise history.
I disagree. I'm going Cubs in 5. And this is really the debate time here. I think the Nationals' bullpen is awful. They have not had a great bullpen all year long. Wade Davis has 32 saves. The Cubs have Mike Montgomery, who can shut it down, Brian Dunsing, Carl Edwards Jr., Koji Uehara, all these guys. I think the starting pitchers are people to believe in as well. And the offense for the Nationals is good. I'll give Bryce Harper credit, Jason Worth credit, Trey Turner credit, Daniel Murphy, Ryan Zimmerman, but all up and down the lineup for the Cubs, it's close to complete. Wilson Contreras has been really good at the catching position. Rizzo, Bryant, Zobrist, Baez, Russell has some power too. You go in their outfield, Hayward's doing a better job this year as well. I want to see the Cubs. I would like to see the Cubs beat the Nationals in the series, partly because I'm a Phillies fan. I don't really like the Nationals or Jason Worth the way he betrayed us. But I do believe the Cubs will win this series in 5. Let's go to the other National League Division Series. The Dodgers, right now the best team in baseball, playing who we predict will be the Diamondbacks. This will be, as if not as fun, as maybe a little bit more fun than that other series. Kind of a West Coast style series. Dodgers D-backs in our predictions from previously. How do you think this series goes?
I do think this one goes the distance as well, but I do think the Dodgers end up pulling it out because of their home field advantage. But I will say, the Diamondbacks are the team the Dodgers don't want to face. In Game 1, they will have Clayton Kershaw on the mound, the best pitcher in the game, but who has had his postseason struggles. The Diamondbacks will counter with Robbie Ray, who's had the best road ERA in baseball this season and has struck out 10-plus Dodgers in the 4 matchups he's had against them this season. So the Diamondbacks will be a team the Dodgers don't want to face. They beat them the last 6 games of their series, but this is a postseason. This is a different animal. Dave Roberts has proven that he's been a great postseason manager, and I think they do enough to win this series in 5, but the Diamondbacks will give them all they can handle.
Like in the last series, I disagree with you.
Oh, wow.
I believe the Diamondbacks are going to win this series, and I believe it's going to be in 5. Not only has Clayton Kershaw had his struggles in starts in the playoffs, Alec, he's struggled this year a little bit against the Diamondbacks. You mentioned Robbie Ray, his dominance on the road. Zach Greinke would probably be starting at home in about Game 3 of the series to have a shutdown game more than likely. The firepower that the Diamondbacks have, even though the Cubs can counter with it, I mean, not the Cubs, the Dodgers can counter with it, I do believe the Diamondbacks are going to pull out this series. Unfortunately for Dodgers fans, this is the way they're going to choke. So we both have Indians-Astros as an ALCS. I have Cubs D-backs. So let's go to that Indians-Astros predicted ALCS. Who do you think wins this one?
I definitely think the Indians win this one as well. They've been here before. I think this Indians team is very similar to the Royals team from 2 seasons ago that lost the World Series in a heartbreaking 7th game, came back and defeated the Mets in 5. They've been there before. They have the starting and relief pitching to do it, and the offense is more than good enough to win a series. And I think the Indians win this series in 5 games against the Astros, who will run out of gas a little bit, and has also a team that's also doesn't have a ton of postseason experience, and then lost that heartbreaking series to the Royals when they were up 2-1 in 2015.
I disagree with you on this one, too. I believe the Astros are going to win this in 6 or 7 games. I'm going to go 6. I believe because the Indians have just been so hot, I think they're going to be the ones to run at quote unquote out of gas in the playoffs. I think the Astros at this level match up almost as equally in hitters Pitching-wise, I think Cleveland might be a little bit better, but I do think now with Justin Verlander, the Astros have the playoff experience. I believe they're going to win their first ever American League pennant, their first pennant as a franchise in 12 years when they won the National League. Let's go to the National League. We have differing series. I'll start with you. You have Dodgers, Nationals, NLCS. Who wins that one?
I think this is the time when the Dodgers choke. This is when they will play the Nationals, and even though they will be the home team, the Nationals will get revenge from last year's division series and win this series in 7 games. You were mentioning the Nationals bullpen. They did have a lot of struggles in the first half, but they went out and acquired Ryan Madson, Brendan Kinsler, and Sean Doolittle, and they have been lights out at the back end of the bullpen. They only need Max Scherzer and Strasburg and company to go 6-7 innings for them to win. Plus, their offense will score plenty of runs. I think this is a team that's very hungry to do something in the postseason. Bryce Harper is feeling the heat about not winning a series, and I think he will get to play in the Fall Classic this year as they defeat I predict the Dodgers in 7 games.
Okay, so I'm going to go for my series. I have Cubs Diamondbacks. I believe it'll be an entertaining series. I think the Cubs might have a slight home field edge on both ends of the country because there are a lot of Cubs fans here in Arizona.
Definitely.
They showed up in the regular season. They show up every year at spring training, and they watch all together last year during the playoffs, and they might just come out and pack Chase Field. I'm going to go Cubs in 6 in this series. I think the Cubs, like the Indians, the Diamondbacks are going to run out of gas, are proverbially going to run out of gas. The Cubs had their World Series hangover. They struggled the first few months of the season. They turned it on and got better and won their division in the later months of the season. I think the late run is the way that the Cubs are going to do it. They're going to win their pennant for the 2nd straight year, just like they did back in the 1900s when they won in 07 and 08. I believe that they're going to repeat as National League champs. So your World Series, you have Indians-Dodgers.
Indians-Nationals.
Indians-Nationals. I have Cubs-Astros. Let's start with you. Indians-Nationals, who wins?
Like I've been saying most of the time, this is an Indians team that's ready to get revenge from last season. And I think they win the World Series in 6 games against the Nationals. Like I said, bullpen, starting pitching, offense led by Francisco Lindor, Edwin Encarnacion, great front office, great manager, and Terry Francona, who's won 2 World Series before. This is a team that's been there before, and the Nationals' inexperience will haunt them again as the Indians win this series in 6. I just think it's been on a collision course for the Indians. They've had it all together. The 20-game win streak was just a part of the plan to get them there, and this will be the team that's holding the trophy in the end of October.
So my prediction was Cubs-Astros. I remember years back, Sports Illustrated, their cover, Cubs-Astros, 2017 World Series. I'm going to pick the Cubs to win this game in 7 games. The Astros will have the home field edge because of a better record. I believe the Cubs have the talent to do it again. And now that they have a little bit of an improved bullpen with Wade Davis instead of Aroldis Chapman, even though Aroldis Chapman did the job until Game 7 last year, I believe the Cubs are going to win again. There's going to be as big of a parade as there was in Chicago last year. Everyone in America will be singing "Go Cubs Go," unless they want to root for the Astros. I want to ask you quickly, what would be the best matchup for Major League Baseball for a World Series?
Well, I think the best matchup for Major League Baseball would be either the Red Sox and Yankees against the Cubs, because it would be hard to top the ratings from last year just because the Cubs, they hadn't been there in 108 years. But if you get one of the big boys in Boston or New York, that's huge for ratings. And definitely, they wouldn't want to see the Diamondbacks or something like that, one of the newer franchises in. But I definitely think if they get the Indians, Red Sox, or Yankees, and against the Cubs, they're definitely going to have a nice ratings. I won't say it's a boost because last year was just historic, but I do think there will be some good ratings for the World Series this year if it's one of the big teams on the East Coast.
I think a Yankees-Cubs World Series would be so huge, not because of how the markets are sized up, but the President of the United States. Longtime Yankee season ticket holder, Donald Trump, also friends with the Ricketts family who own the Cubs. Even though the Cubs visited Barack Obama right before he left office, some of the Cubs did take a trip to the White House when they played the Nationals in D.C. I believe it would be so exciting. And also, just a quick thought, the Yankees played in the World Series when George Bush, when it was his first year as president. The Yankees also played in the World Series when it was Barack Obama's first year as president.
So it's a trend.
It would be a trend, but I'm predicting the Astros are going to win the American League. But it'll be fun to see. Well, that's going to do it for the show this week, but please make sure to keep an eye on fresh baseball postseason content all postseason long on our website, coast2coastsports.weebly.com. That's coast2coastsports.weebly.com. For Alec Henden, I'm Matt Kling. And even if your team's season is already over, keep swinging for those fences.